Bills Mafia, what's going on? Another edition of Triple Coverage. I am Lance Nelson. To my left is Scott Casson, and to my right, Benjamin Shoop. Gentlemen, start with you first, Scott. How we doing tonight?
Doing great. Happy to be back. Sorry I missed last week, everybody, but I got an extra week full of Bills takes in me, just ready to let them out. So excited to talk some football with the fellas on this fine Friday night.
Awesome. What's up, Shoop?
Oh, nothing much. Nothing much. As you can see, I have a different camera angle today, testing it out. We'll see how it goes. Let me know what you guys think. If where you hate it, if you hate seeing more of me than usual. But I'm doing good. It's a beautiful day today, and going into a good weekend. Now I'm lagging again, of course, but that's nothing new here. But yeah, doing well.
Awesome. Yeah, fun thing to get into first off. Austin Rivers. I guess, Scott, you kind of posed this question. You can maybe give a little background from Austin Rivers and get the question rolling here.
Sure. Yeah. So Austin Rivers, some may know as Doc Rivers' son, played for a long time in the NBA. Also played at Duke. Was on the Pat McAfee show about a week or so ago, and said that there was 30 guys on NBA rosters that could play in the NFL, which led to a whole bunch of social media debates, backlash, whatever you want to call it, about who actually could maybe go from the NBA to the NFL or from the NFL to the NBA. Obviously, you think about guys like Jimmy Graham, Antonio Gates, Mo Alley Cox. Didn't play college football, but they played college basketball and then switched to the NFL. DJ Burns from this past, NC State run, they said that maybe he should have a better future in football than basketball. So kind of got me thinking, who from the Bills do we think could have the best chance to play in the NBA? And personally, I think the answer is no one, just because it's such a different skill set. But it's a fun little exercise and something to talk about. So, who do you guys think might be able to kind of get their prime time on and play two professional sports?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question Josh Allen could hoop it up with people, but otherwise, I don't know. I think about tight end is, like you mentioned, one of those positions that kind of, when you looked at LeBron James in his young career, you thought like, oh man, he would be a great tight end in the NFL. So you think about, could Dawson Knox do or whatnot, but these guys are, really just 6'6", 6'7" at most, mostly in the NFL, and but they're built like with a power forward body, so it's kind of tough. They don't quite have the height to play power forward necessarily, but they have that ginormous muscular build. So I think you mentioned off air and things that, like, yeah, their body compositions are much different, so it's kind of tough. Most guys in the NFL being 6'7" or shorter would maybe need to be more in a guard or maybe a stretch forward type of position. But I think Josh Allen's super athletic, so I wouldn't put it past him at least.
Yeah, Josh did mention he was in an interview and he said he could get out there, use up
Yeah.
his fouls, play hard defense, and box out and hope the one got in. So he thought he could hang out there too. Shoot, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple guys. I mean, Greg Rousseau is a bigger guy too. Maybe if he, got into that basketball body type, right? You'd have to kind of switch it over, like Lance was saying, because it's completely different body types for the most part. So, he's one that maybe comes to mind. Some of the offensive linemen, we've seen offensive linemen retire and then all of a sudden slim down. So like a Spencer Brown, 6'7", maybe if he slimmed down a little bit, he could, get moving there. So, I mean, it really, for me, have to be one of the taller guys, maybe a couple of receivers in the NFL that could maybe, get up and really jump. A lot of the receivers, when you do see those videos, I'm forgetting the team that put it out, but there was one of the NFL teams put out a video where they asked all the players if
That
they
was
could.
Nebraska. Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Nebraska did a dunk contest. I thought that's what you're talking about. Sorry.
So So one of the teams, I'm blanking on who it was, but one of the teams put their social media teams put one of those whiteboards as they're walking off the field of could you make the NFL? And a lot of them were saying yeah, and a lot of the receivers were very, very open about being able to. So maybe a couple of receivers could, a lot of them can get up, and a lot of them are very, very athletic. So who knows about them? But yeah, I mean it's funny to see because if you look at Steph Curry, who in NBA terms is short, would be tall compared to a lot of. I mean, maybe not even tall, but just average height for an NFL player. So it's a tough question. I I mean, I've seen the question go around with Austin Rivers and everything. It's all in fun, but I don't think either way it's the best for both sides, because it's just, to me, they're two completely different sports for the body types and the way you play.
Yeah,
Josh
similar
Hart
to what
plays
you.
pretty big for the Knicks too, though, and he's not the tallest guy, but still gets like 12 rebounds in some games and stuff like that. So if you think of some of like the bigger safeties or the bigger cornerbacks as well, I don't know what anybody's shooting skills are in the NFL, obviously around the Bills, but if they have a jump shot, they got a chance at it because they can go in and box out and be physical and come down with a basketball.
Yeah, I was similar to what you said about, like the size versus NBA, NFL. Austin Rivers in another interview was saying, like, if you look at an NBA team versus an NFL team, we're bigger than all of them. Austin Rivers was saying, he's like, and he's an average size NBA player, much bigger than almost everybody in the NFL outside of the linemen. So, but for me, I'd probably pick Keon Coleman. As far as I know, he's the only Bill to play college basketball. Played college basketball at Michigan State. His first year there, his freshman year at Michigan State, had quite a few D1 college basketball offers in addition to football. Went to Michigan State because he could play both. Thankfully for us, he chose football, and so far it's been working out for him. But yeah, I thought just a fun little hypothetical. Probably nobody in the NFL could go play in the NBA, and probably vice versa. But it's fun to debate about, especially in these months where we don't have actual football to watch. So got to find some sports stuff to talk about.
Absolutely. No, I love that. All right, let's get into the next topic here. Post June 1st, potential targets. Who are your favorite targets? And where do you see the positions, maybe the areas of need here on this roster? For me, just to set it up a little bit, I think it's going to be really tough to make this roster. So when you talk about adding something to it, I spoke about this on Wednesday on Going Deep. I just think you have to make it more impactful signing. A depth signing doesn't really do much because the team has a lot of depth, in my opinion. So I'm not sure what that does to make an impact on the roster. But where do you think some areas of need could be on this roster, and what are some potential targets you're excited about here for the Bills post June 1st? And let's be honest here, we don't even know who's going to be available yet, because there are probably going to be other people who are cut and things throughout the summer. So that'll lead to the second part of the question towards the end here of, do they even need to sign anyone at all? But first of all, let's go with areas need and potential targets you're excited about.
Go ahead, Ben.
Okay. We talked about it a little bit last week, Scott. I know you weren't here, but we talked about, for me, the one area that I would love to see them attack, especially depth-wise, is cornerback. I mean, I think there's still some solid guys out there, some veterans out there that you could go to get. I would still wait until it's, towards August, maybe even July, towards that time, towards training camp. But, for me, I like the cornerback room. It's not necessarily that I don't like the cornerback room. I just think out of all the positions, I mean, receiver, I don't know how much more depth you can get there. You have depth. You just don't have that superstar that you necessarily had with Diggs there. So, I mean, when it comes to anything, even offensive line, they filled pretty well. Running back, I still think they have pretty good depth there with the three that they have, even Frank Gore Jr. coming in for undrafted free agent. Maybe quarterback, but they also just gave Mitch Trubisky a 2-year deal, so I don't see that. So linebacker, again, that's another position they added pretty well. So, I mean,
Shane
the only one
that's really not doing it for you?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Shane Bouchelet is not doing it for you? I don't know how to say
Buechele.
Bouchel.
Buechele.
We've never really seen him play too much in the NFL, so who knows? But yeah, for me, the number one position is corner. I don't think it's a glaring need for depth, but it's something that I think out of all the positions they should target. I know we talked about some names, even like Patrick Peterson, a little bit of a veteran guy, but who knows where they could go. There's still a lot of guys out there. Stephon Gilmore too. I know he's a bigger name, but wouldn't mind it necessarily. It would be funny, as we were talking about last week, but it'd be a little funny to see how he'd react coming back to Buffalo after his exit wasn't exactly the prettiest. But yeah, the cornerbacks for me, the number one depth-wise, if we're going to look there at anybody after post June 1st.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of Bills fans, especially on social media, that are like, oh, June 1st, we get all this money. We're going to do something big. We're going to trade for a receiver. We're going to trade for this. We're going to sign this season-altering player. Like I don't necessarily see that happening. I don't see a big move coming. I know, like you said, we have a lot of depth, which we do. So maybe some positions I can see them going after another edge guy, kind of like what we did last year, bringing in Leonard Floyd. Not quite a Leonard Floyd name out there, but get another edge rusher. Emmanuel Ogba's out there, Yannick Ngakoue, veteran guys who can, you can use on third down, maybe get after the passer. I know we spoke about it a couple weeks ago too. Jerry Hughes, another guy, maybe wants to come back to Buffalo for one last run. And all those guys would probably be on pretty affordable deals. They're not going to be able to just throw $10 million at one guy. They're going to need that money to use throughout the season. Like, if you want to make a trade during the deadline, or we always sign people in the middle of the year. So I see this $10 million more as kind of our safety net kind of thing throughout the year, rather than throwing a lot of it at just one player or making a big name trade. At least in this offseason. Who knows? Maybe someone could get hurt in training camp and everything changes. But the way the roster is constructed now, I don't see it really being any kind of big splash or anything like that.
Yeah, the closer it gets, and obviously it's tomorrow, June 1st now. So it came up quick, it seems. And I think the more I think about it, the more I kind of agonize on this, like, man, what are they going to do? I just see that maybe Bean was being truthful and saying, they're going to use it to sign the rookies and just kind of have it there in case, break glass in case of emergency type of situation. Because honestly, what do they need? We just talked about not much. If you go out and sign Justin Simmons, let's say at safety, John Roberts saying if Mike Edwards is still injured. If you do that kind of thing, Justin Simmons no doubt comes in as your starting free safety now. Yes, he probably commands a contract higher than $10 million, but you can structure that so that the cap hit this year is less. So good comments out there from you guys. Justin Simmons is my favorite player to target for the Bills, because I feel like it's just, okay, now we're not worrying about who our starting free safety is. And there's all the talk about if Micah Hyde could return and he would step right in there as that free safety as well. And as cool as that would be, as sentimental as that is, as much as like he probably wants to, and I would love to see him come back and maybe win a championship in Buffalo. And every year I feel like that the Bills have Josh Allen. They have that ability, depending on how healthy they can stay at the end of the year, especially on defense, they have that ability to compete for a championship. So to see Micah Hyde come back and fill that free safety role as well would be cool. But I'm not sure how else you can really sign someone. Like you mentioned, there's not a ton of like plug and play kind of guys. There's not a Leonard Floyd type of edge rusher out there. I don't mind Yannick Ngakoue at all. I think he'd be a decent signing as well. Emmanuel Ogba, maybe. Not. I don't know. I don't love the idea. I just think he's not any better than. He's just kind of hindering the development now of other players too, and that's part of the thing with coaches. The development of players is their specialty, and I don't want to hinder that by bringing in guys a step in front of others either. So at the end of the day, my gut feeling is they're going to kind of stand pat and wait for some things to play out throughout the summer. There's not going to be an immediate signing right away at June 1st once that cap savings from Trey White's deal goes on the books. So we'll see how it shakes out. And the other point you made was that stud surefire number one wide receiver in this offense. And my uncle comes in and makes a good point here that Brady was saying in his interview that they're going to structure it based upon what's best for the players they have now. And I think if you get the opportunity to get T. Higgins or Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel, you probably pull that trigger, because one of the other things that Joe Brady said is as many Curtis Samuels you can have on this team are the better. And I really think that you can just take the Curtis out of that statement and say that as many Samuels as you have on this team, the better, and you could have Debo Samuel and Curtis Samuel. So that would be kind of pretty entertaining, I think, with their skill set being so similar. Though it makes you wonder how redundant they would want to be. But Brady did say it, that as many of those type of guys as you can get on the team would be better. And so I don't know how much you want to take that with a grain of salt, or how much you say, okay, that's coach speak. But what are your thoughts on that kind of thing with what he said? How many similar skill sets do you think they could actually have on this roster?
I think the similar skill set thing is kind of what they're going for. I think they want a lot of different players who can line up in a lot of different places and do a lot of different things. Like most of the guys we're going to throw out there this year, like even James Cook in the backfield, Knox and Kincaid at tight end, Samuel, Shakir, Coleman, they can all line up all over the field. I think that's what they're going for. Teams aren't going to know necessarily how to defend it, and they're trying to get those mismatches. Like if we put Kincaid in the slot lined up as a receiver, you have to choose. Do I cover him with a linebacker who's too slow or a safety who's not big enough? Same thing with Curtis Samuel, linebacker who's too slow, or a linebacker who's too slow, or a safety, and then it takes a safety down out of the secondary, and there's other plays maybe over the top. So I don't think the way the offense is going to look that we can have enough players who have those same kind of skill sets, because the defense is never going to know how we're going to break the huddle and who's going to be where. So I think a player of that skill set would definitely be a welcomed addition. I just don't know if we're going to make a big splash kind of move for a guy like that. Just I would be very surprised, to put it that way.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing, just because especially hearing even Brandon Beane talk about it, right? It's been that whole message this summer, even hearing Josh Allen talk about it a little bit of, it's not just going to be about one guy or two guys. It's going to be about everybody. And it's going to be, some people might have to sacrifice some targets or some shares to help other guys get open or whatever it is. So I think it's going to be, it might be even a little bit of a kind of a trial period there in the beginning to see who fits where the best. Just because, you do have guys that can do a little bit of everything, that can kind of play all over the field. Where do you want Curtis Samuel the most? Where do you want Kincaid the most? Where do you want Khalil Shakir the most, right? Or even Coleman. So you'll see them, I think, especially early on, training camp, you'll see a lot too, but I think you'll see it moved around where it's going to be guys moving around, getting involved in different areas, kind of getting the ball out quick, seeing if they can make some plays there, take some shots downfield with different guys. So I think you're going to see a lot of different looks. I know we've talked about this kind of with that offense and with these guys just being different, being able to do different things. So, I mean, it's going to be, I'm not exactly, I know everybody thinks it's going to be jump right in, boom, it's going to be great. I'm a little bit more skeptical on it. I do think there will be growing pains, because you are going to from an offense that was so heavily surrounded by James Cook, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, to now you have a bunch of other guys that could possibly, pick up those targets. And it's going to be more Kincaid. It's going to be more Shakir, but it's going to be that everybody eats, as you guys said, with everybody eats, but it could be a little bit of a growing pain because certain guys are going to be getting different looks. Everybody's going to be looking all over what's going to happen with certain play calls and certain downs, even with third downs. Who's going to be the go-to guy? Are they going to have a go-to guy, or is it just going to be every down everybody eats and everybody's going to get the chance to get open? So I'm going to be curious to see kind of how it looks. I mean, I think am I confident in Joe Brady? Yes, but I still think it could be a little bit of a growing pain period, especially in those first 3-4 weeks with young guys, new guys, and just a new kind of look offense there with Josh not being able to say, hey, when in doubt, I'm going to look Steph's way, or when in doubt, I'm going to look Gabe Davis's way. So it's going to be an interesting look. I'm excited to see it. But again, I'm not going to come out and think it's going to be, same offense as it was the past few years right away. So that's kind of my look at it, kind of a little bit of everything, but that's how I'm looking at it right now.
We kind of stumbled right into our next segment that we had on deck anyway, so we might as well transfer right into it. And I think this offense is going to look so much more balanced than you've seen it. And is a little bit scary to some, probably, to think that, oh man, you're going to take the ball out of Josh Allen's hands more and hand it off to a running back. But we have a pretty good stable here, I think, and it just lends itself to doing that. Joe Brady mentioned they have one of the best offensive line coaches in the league. Aaron Cromer is obviously very well regarded in the NFL, and by myself as well. I think that he does a fine job, and he has so many new guys along the offensive line now to kind of put in different places. There's going to be competition at left guard this year. It's probably the only position of need that we didn't really talk about in the last segment, where you do have probably at least some question and some competition at left guard. And I know you guys left me off the offensive line show for some reason, but no, I was traveling obviously. But I think the left guard position is an area where if you see someone that comes out and is let go by a team for whatever reason throughout the summer, you could also see an ad there if you don't really see it coming together for David Edwards or whomever else you want to think could compete, I guess, in that role for starting left guard. You have Lyle Collins, I don't know if he's really going to be able to transfer to guard right away or if he's going to stay with tackle. Keaton Bills, probably on the outside looking in there too. Will Clapp can play some guard. Alec Anderson. So we'll see. Scott, do you think Vandemark has potential at guard, or really just focusing on tackle?
I see Vandemark as more of a tackle.
Yeah.
6'6" is pretty big to play on the interior, and I think he moves his feet really well. I think he's better at tackling. Could he, in a pinch, go in and play some guard? Yeah, probably. To me, I see him more as a long-term tackle.
He's not being lumped into the left guard competition by any means in your mind.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think probably David Edwards, like you mentioned, Alec Anderson we got there. Von Granger can play some guard too if need be. But I know he'll probably be the backup center, so you might want to keep him there. But he can play anywhere on the interior offensive line. I know he did early there in Georgia. So probably Anderson, Edwards, and then Von Granger if we need to. I think they're really counting
Will
on
Clapp at all?
Oh, yeah, Will Clapp, sorry. Forgot to mention him. Yeah, definitely in there for the depth spots, and they like him because he can play center too. But I think they're really counting on David Edwards to kind of like put a stranglehold on that position. He was great last year when called upon. Didn't get a whole lot of first team reps just because guys didn't get hurt. Knock on wood, that happens again this year. But when he came in as our sixth offensive lineman, he did a really good job. So I think it's his job to lose. And hopefully, he just takes that and we don't have to talk about it again.
Yeah, I love Joe Brady's, press conference, his approach to this offense and the way he talked about everybody eats and the way he just was saying how they're not necessarily going to change a ton to go into a Joe Brady offense. Called it Josh Allen's offense and said a lot about, I'm not going to make these guys think. If it's going to slow them down and make them think, I'm not going to change that. And that was kind of one of the bits that's stuck in my head from watching it over and over again is that, he's like, I ain't going to change that, and it's just such swagger. Great press conference from him. He almost had a head coaching aura about him out there and the way he carried himself. So it was really kind of a great start to the season here with Joe Brady. And thinking about all the weapons we do have, I think there's weapons we don't even really know we have right now. I think you don't know exactly what you're going to get out of guys like Claypool, and you have then Shavers, Isabella, and Hamler sitting there with Xavier Johnson and Lawrence Keys as UDFAs. Like there's just a ton of guys there. 13 wide receivers right now on the roster, and then you add in Knox and Kincaid on top of that. I was talking with Kevin Syracuse, and I wanted to get your guys' opinion on this. I think Dalton Kincaid is by far thought of as probably going to get the lion's share or the most targets of any weapon on this offense, any pass catcher. But out of just the wide receiver room, I think Khalil Shakir gets the most targets out of any wide receiver. Who do you think from the wide receivers gets the most targets?
That's a tough one for me because even if it is, Khalil Shakir or Curtis Samuel, I don't see it being a wide discrepancy. I
Sure.
think it's going to
Yep.
be within 5. I think it will be that. I just because like you said, I think it will be. I could even see James Cook getting involved heavily in the passing game, like that heavily, where it's 5-6 targets a game out of the backfield for him,
I hope
to the
so.
point where he gets a ton of targets a year, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be a tough one for the receivers. Curtis Samuel's been getting raved about at least as a blocker. I know that's something that they were talking about. So maybe he ends up being that guy that gets a lot of little dink and dunk passes and just get the ball in his hands. If I had to put money on it right now, I probably would go with Khalil Shakir. It'd be my best guess. I do think Keon Coleman can be a dark horse because I think he could be a guy that Josh looks at as, when in doubt, I'm throwing that thing up to him, right? Josh loves to do that. We know that. I mean, it's something that as Bills fans we love, but we also can hate at times with seeing him just chuck it up. So it's, even if it is, Shakir or Samuel or Coleman, or even if maybe, dark horse, Mac Hollins, Chase Claypool too, I don't think it will be a wide margin by any means. But I do think out of all the guys outside of even receiver, I do think out of all the weapons, I think it will be Kincaid. But I'm interested to see which one kind of emerges as that number one quote receiver. But yeah, right now I guess I'd have to go with Khalil Shakir as my if I had to put money on it right now, I'd go Shakir as well.
Yeah, you mentioned Claypool and Hollins. If it's one of them, some things went seriously wrong this season.
Josh Allen was raving about Mac Hollins in one of his pressers. The thing I took away from one of those, I'm like, God, he talked about Mac Hollins like 4 times in one presser. It was kind of crazy. Not to say that it means he's going to get any targets. It was just like, man, he mentioned quite a bit for what the role I thought he might have would be,
Yeah, I saw that. And from what I've heard, Mac Hollins has looked really good, but I think, even Mac Hollins knows what his role on this team is. He's going to be special team ace and wide receiver 4, and maybe he mosses someone on a jump ball, I hope. And he can block. He blocks his you-know-what off. So I think it would be Curtis Samuel. I think but again, I think it's going to be really close. I think we're going to have a lot of guys in that like 60 to 80 target range, something like that. So
I was hoping to get some disagreement here. I'm trying to get some excitement going here. I think there's not, like you mentioned, being a little bit of a slower news day and stuff. I definitely want to get some
Reggie
passion out of you
Gilliam
guys.
To get some views.
Switching positions, Reggie Gilliam.
Yeah, we're switching to the wishbone, and we're gonna.
Well, that's who Bean was actually thinking about when he traded Diggs. He was thinking, well, we got to get Reggie Gilliam the ball a little bit more,
That's right. But no, I just think like this offense. Obviously, it could be different when it gets on the field, but I think we all have a pretty good idea in our head of what it's going to be, and we, like we said, got a lot of guys who do something similar. So I'm just going Samuel because he's the vet, and I do think that him and Josh are going to click pretty well together because he's clicked pretty well with those kind of like inside fast receivers over the years. So yeah, I think Samuel, but it's going to be close. Like
I will say, Samuel has played with Joe Brady before, so that could also play a factor too. So that I would, if I had to place money, I would probably go Shakir, but yeah, second would be Curtis Samuel for me. But dark horse, I do think Chase Claypool could be a dark horse there if he shows out.
I think that Keon Coleman,
Canadian Chase Claypool,
is just showing such a prowess early to be, a student of the game, that as the year goes on, he's going to command more and more targets too, which, is going to even that playing field. Like you mentioned, there's going to be 3 to 4 guys there. And then you have Kincaid as well, that are all going to be right in the realm of that target, of that leading target share. So it's interesting. I think it's going to be, and I see a comment there. We're going to get to that in a moment, John. So let's talk first. Do a quick segment, and then I've got my 1-minute segment coming up. But the Bills signed Gable Stevenson, 5'11", 266. They're listing him at, and the article I read from the Bills. He's going to be a heck of a hand fighter at the line of scrimmage, obviously. He's going to have that going for him, but severely undersized as a D tackle, what they're listing him as. But let me know your thoughts, guys. What do you think? Scott, we'll start with you because I think you have more of a lineman type mentality. What are you thinking on Gable Stevenson, interior defensive lineman?
Yeah, so I like it, like kind of the same as I'm blanking on his name now, but the rugby player that we brought in. Why not take a flyer on him? Is he going to make the team? No, but is he a world class athlete that maybe we can mold him, teach him to football, and see what he can do? Absolutely.
Travis Clayton is your guy.
Yes, thank you, Travis Clayton. Yeah, so why not like give him a shot, see what he can do? Back after he won the gold in 2021, he was on a podcast and they asked him about playing football, and he said it was something that he wanted to do. I think he did a couple workouts then, but it didn't work out. And then he went WWE route, and now coming back to the Bills. So I would imagine he put up a hell of a workout just because of the kind of the athlete he is. So I didn't fact check this answer, but I think I know it is off the top of my head. Do you guys know the two people to win Olympic medals and Super Bowls?
I saw it earlier today, and I'm blanking, but I saw somebody talk about it earlier.
Marquise Goodwin, did he? I don't know if he won a medal. No.
I don't think he has a medal or a Super Bowl.
I didn't know if he was on a team randomly that won a Super Bowl, but I guess not. The Niners didn't win.
Yeah, so Bullet Bob Hayes, only person with a Super Bowl and an Olympic gold medal, and then Michael Carter, shot putter, who I watched a lot of grainy YouTube film on when I was in high school as a thrower, won silver in the Olympics, and then won a couple Super Bowls with the 49ers. So maybe Gable gets himself on a pretty exclusive list.
Yeah, I'm personally, when it comes to like this, it's a cool, I guess, story to kind of hear about. But yeah, I don't imagine him making the roster unless he really shows out and, as Scott said, learns the football very well. But yeah, I mean, we all know how much Sean McDermott loves his wrestlers. We know that, right? So that probably played a little bit of a factor into them saying Sean McDermott was probably raving about this guy, saying, hey, wrestler, Olympian, probably, know he has a good work ethic because he got to the Olympics. So let's see what he's got. And, he's got some tools, and he's got size. He's a little bit undersized weight or height wise, but he might be able to turn it into a little bit of football there if he can get that body right into a football body. But, I'm not expecting too much from him. I know some people were a little bit upset about the signing. I'm not going to even get into that, but that part is, it's at the end of the day, it's kind of, do we think he's going to really make the team? Not necessarily. If he does, then we'll go from there to see what goes on. But this team's already got so much depth and so much everything that I have a very hard time seeing him make the roster. So cool story. It's going to be cool to see him, in the preseason, see him at training camp, see him kind of just see what he can do. Maybe he can make a little bit of a name for himself to go somewhere else if it's not Buffalo. But, it's a cool story to at least see an Olympian come and try out, right? We've seen other Olympians talk about it, right? Even Usain Bolt was asked about joining the NFL. Obviously, that'd be a little bit different, but it's cool just to kind of see him come in and it's see what he can do. Doesn't hurt, right? Doesn't hurt to just bring a guy in and see what he can do.
Not quite the same thing, but two sport guys. Dennis Schroeder, the point guard for the Nets, played in the German 6th football league today. Playing two sports at the same time. Another one.
Very nice.
Fun fact.
All right. Good times. I don't have much more to say on Stevenson. That was kind of a quick segment, so we're going to get into the 1 minute segment, and then we're going to keep rolling on here. So I'll see if I can get this set up here. All right. So John kind of said it in the comments there is how many wide receivers do you think that the Bills keep on the 53-man roster? And if you want to say who they are, that's great too, but leave them in the comments for me. Let us know who you think. And for me, I think they're going to carry 7. I think you have Shakir, Samuel, and MVS as your 3 veteran guys. You have Keon Coleman, obviously the rookie. That gets you 4. Mac Hollins, Chase Claypool is 6, and then keeping a Justin Shorter is most likely. But if Isabella Shavers or KJ Hamler surprise, those guys could compete and really have a shot to have the Bills keep 7. So for me, I think that you're going to see the Bills carry 7 wide receivers on this roster, on the 53-man roster this year, because they want to have all the weapons at their disposal to be able to rotate in and out and do all the things they want to accomplish on offense. So let me know who your receivers would be, whether it's 5, 6, or 7, or some other number. I think that those are the 3 most likely, but we'll go back here to our standard operating layout. Guys, what do you think? Who and how many wide receivers will the Bills keep on the 53-man roster?
I would be kind of surprised if it was 7. I feel like they'll probably keep 6, just because I think we're definitely keeping 4 tight end / fullbacks most likely, and Quentin Morris and Reggie Gilliam being those 3rd and 4th. And if you keep a fullback, it gets tough to keep that extra receiver. So it would come down to me as like, where do you make that cut? Like, do we take 1 less offensive lineman, 1 less corner? And I think we would probably only carry 6 receivers, especially given how many 2 tight end sets we're going to run. 7 would surprise me, but hey, if someone balls out and makes us make that decision for them, then yeah, I think they will. But it gets complicated keeping 7s. Like who would it'd probably be Gilliam would be the odd man out, right?
Yeah, you'd think it would be Gilliam or Quentin Morris, depending on how they want to roll that out. Another option, though, is they could always have given those guys, if they can get to the practice squad and they can keep them there, they can have guys inactive and then elevate, that 7th wide receiver potentially from the practice squad on game day, but also, just like you mentioned, carry the 6 on the roster. Yeah, I totally agree that it's a numbers game and it's going to be tough to keep 7. I just feel like the vibe I got from Joe Brady and what he wants to accomplish on offense, maybe 7 would be possible this year with the roster build and with not having that number 1 clear-cut wide receiver.
Or we just score every time and don't bring a punter.
There you go.
That would work too. I would honestly lean 7 because I think you saw last year they liked to use, when they did have 3 tight ends out there, they like to use an offensive lineman as that 3rd one. And I think you could see even Reggie Gilliam kind of be that 3rd tight end if they need him to be. Maybe they do move Quentin Morris too. I'm not sure if he's still, I believe he would still be eligible for practice squad.
I think with COVID rules now, I think with the COVID rules that they made it and changed it, like almost anybody is.
Yeah, so I think if they could, I think they could move him to the practice squad if they needed to, and then if let's say Kincaid or Knox get hurt, call him up. So I just think 7 because I think looking at this receiving core, it's just you don't know what you have, so you might as well bring that 7th guy and just give him a shot, right? Whether that is Chase Claypool, MVS, Justin Shorter, KJ Hamler, whoever it is, I think you could give them a shot and say, hey, if somebody's not performing, we're going to put you in here and give you a shot, and let's see what goes on there. Just because, I mean, unless they do something where they do put a practice squad. I see Joey there asked if how many to the practice squad. Do you put Justin Shorter on the practice squad? Do you risk maybe losing him? Do you put even a guy like Andy Isabella back on the practice squad? So it's going to be a tough cut for them, whatever they do. But it's a good kind of conversation of who are they going to keep. I think once you see training camp get going, you'll start to get more of a feel of, is Chase Claypool going to be able to step up and kind of convince them, hey, let's keep 6. Claypool and Mac Hollins and MVS, they're all stepping up. We have our 6 now, and those 3 plus, Shakir, Coleman, Samuel, we can afford to risk putting Shorter on the practice squad. We can risk putting, KJ Hamler on the practice squad, and we'll keep Quentin Morris and keep 4 tight ends / fullbacks. So I'm back and forth on it. I want to lean 7 just because of the aspect that we don't have that go-to guy and they're still trying to figure it out. So I lean 7, could very easily see 6, but I just, for some reason, got that feeling it's going to be 7 and they're going to keep that extra guy just because they want to see what they have and they want to be able to mess with offense or defenses and say, hey, we're going to bring out guys that maybe you didn't even expect on certain downs, or we're going to play all 7 every game and you're going to have to match up and figure out what we're doing and kind of really just understand that this is everybody's going to eat and everybody's going to get a shot and it is 7 guys. So it's a tough one for me it's a good question, but once they get going in training camp, we'll get a better feel of what they're thinking too.
So I looked it up. You can have 6 guys over the like minimum experience limit. So you can have like 10 guys less than 2 years, then 6 guys at any kind of experience.
Okay. And then Joey just brought up here as well that on the practice squad, you can only keep 2 players safe out of their practice squad. And then, okay, well.
The Isaiah Hodgins game, I like to call it.
Yeah. We all know how that went, so.
Yeah, if you haven't done so yet, guys, appreciate you watching. Got a couple of hundred people here, almost 250 people. So 40 minutes in, if you guys can smash that like, share it or repost it with your friends, we would appreciate it. Go over to YouTube if you can, give it a like, and subscribe to that Built-in Buffalo YouTube channel. Would greatly appreciate it. Again, appreciate everyone tuning in here. The next thing we wanted to do was just get to a couple things from the fans and from the audience here, and I think that I definitely want to do that because we had a couple here that were pretty good. Dawson Knox in the backfield. John said they're thinking about Knox in the backfield. I really like this idea because it drives me nuts that you're basically last year taking James Cook off the field because you need a pass blocking running back. It's like, well, he's like one of the best pass catchers on the team. Why are you taking him off the field? Just put him in and let him run a route. I understand some passing schemes need that running back in the backfield to block. So I like that, if you do get Dawson Knox and he has lined up in that kind of like side pistol role.
H-back, yeah.
Yeah. So that definitely is intriguing to me. And I would like to have, rather have James Cook running a route on a linebacker than I would Dawson Knox in some cases. Knox, I know he had injury troubles last year. And then also you mentioned about more 12 personnel this year. It seemed like, do you attribute the lesser use of 12 personnel last year to Knox's injury versus Joe Brady taking over on the offense? Because when Ken Dorsey was relieved and Joe Brady came in, they ran 12 personnel a lot less.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to just say, I did want to say this kind of actually, that thought about Dawson Knox in the backfield can kind of go to what we were just talking about, even with the receivers, just that my mind just went right there of when they're looking at it, are they looking at Dawson Knox and saying, hey, we're paying you this much money to be our number 2 tight end at the moment. We're going to not just use you as a tight end. We're going to use you as that fullback role. We're going to say bye to Gilliam, as much as it may hurt for them to say bye to Gilliam. Do you get rid of Gilliam? And then just if you need a fullback out there, another guy in the backfield to help block, you can have Dawson Knox back there who can do a little bit of everything and kind of catch the ball also out of the backfield too. So that one might even say, hey, then we'll keep 7 there and get rid of Gilliam. But back to what you guys were actually asking. I think with the 12 personnel, I don't even know if you'll see a lot of it this year. I think you'll see more of Kincaid just out in the slot or out wide in general off the line of scrimmage instead of putting him on the line with Knox. So, I mean, Joe Brady has a history of also liking to have, that widespread offense. People spread the field, get the ball, get the defense kind of wondering what's going to happen, who's going to go where. So 12 personnel, you could see it a little bit, but I'm not going to think it's going to be a ton. I don't think you'll see it as much as you saw with Dorsey. I think you'll see it a little bit more than you saw last year with Joe Brady towards the end of the year, but I don't think it will be a major uptick from what we saw last year with Brady towards the end of the year.
I don't know. I kind of disagree. I think we're going to go a decent amount of 12 personnel. Dawson Knox got hurt last year and missed a lot of time. And I think Knox and Kincaid are going to be on the field together a lot. So I think we are going to go 2 tight ends with a running back, because our tight ends are kind of more like slot receivers than they are full traditional tight ends anyway. So I think we will see a lot of 12 personnel. I
It
like
may not
Dawson
be
Knox
the
in the back.
traditional like inline, two
Yeah,
inline
Yeah.
though, right?
right.
Is what you're
We're
saying,
not
but
going
you're
to put.
still calling it 12. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, by
Gotcha.
definition
Yeah.
it is, but they're going to be
Right.
in the slot, or we may have one on the line or one in the slot. So
Right.
we're going to have 12 personnel on the field, but it's not going to be lined up. We're not going to be watching a Big Ten football game on Sundays. I like Dawson Knox in the backfield. I know they've done it a couple times. The only thing that gets tricky with that, if he's in the backfield by himself with Josh, like you're basically telling the defense we're not running the ball. So just he can only really do it in certain situations, and that's kind of like a max protect kind of thing, like 3rd and long, 2nd and really long, 4th down, because we're not catching anybody off guard. Unless, who knows, maybe we run a little like read option with Dawson around the edge. But
Well, I was looking at it more having Cook also there in the backfield, like in shotgun. You have Cook on one side, Knox on the other. Now you have that threat of, do you have a lead blocker in Knox when you hand it, or are you going to fake it and go elsewhere on the outside? Maybe a little RPO action with, fake handoff, a little bit of bubble screen here and there. So I guess I was more thinking what you were thinking, but I wasn't looking at it as 12 personnel. I was looking at it as, Knox in the slot or Kincaid in the slot and one of them in line.
Yeah,
But
I think if
anytime Kincaid and Knox on the field at the same time, you're going to call it 12, and that's
Yeah.
going to happen quite a bit, I assume. But then you also have these weapons, so you're going to also play the matchups. How deep are the cornerbacks or the linebackers and safeties for teams? So if you spread them out 4 and 5 wide, or 4 wide with Kincaid as the tight end, probably gives you some of the best matchups that you can have. So when teams maybe are weaker in covering those types of players with safeties and linebackers, you're going to maybe try to do that more often too, to try to get your matchups. It's all about getting the matchups. This offense is going to be entirely matchup based. It's going to be, like Brady said, week to week. So some weeks are going to be very heavy, 12 personnel, maybe even 13, and running, and he even mentioned 22 and things like that. So I think the regaining of the balance of an offense, opening up the pass with the run, you have a very good chance to see definitely 2 tight ends on the field at the same time quite a bit. But week to week, I'm excited to see the weeks that we see little of it, because I just think, how is that going to work when Allen and company are just kind of running and gunning. That's one of the most exciting things to watch, is Josh Allen in the hurry up and kind of going up and down the field. So I'm excited to see that just as much. But one more question here, I want to kind of get rolling so we can get through some of this stuff we have too, and you may have to table some of the things for next week or whatnot. But there's going to be some offensive and defensive players going to have breakout year. And who do you predict it is? Scott, do you want to start with this one and give us kind of maybe one on each side of the ball where you think could break out and have a breakout year, and maybe even a rookie surprise could be a breakout candidate as well? Let us know.
Sure. On the defensive side, I'm going Greg Rousseau. I may just be willing him to have a breakout year because he's going into
Pass
year
rushing
4.
wise, right?
Yeah, pass rushing wise. I want to see double-digit sacks from him this season.
Wow.
He's in year 4. He kind of needs to – we got to figure out what he is. Is
Yeah.
he a solid DN who is great against the run, or is he someone who we thought he was when we drafted him, who's long, who can bend the corner and get to the quarterback? He's probably going to need to step into that number 1 pass rusher role this year. Leonard Floyd is gone. 2012 Von Miller ain't walking through that door. Like, it's going to be Greg Rousseau, who I think we look to on big third downs to make the big plays and rush the passer. So I'd like to see Greg Rousseau make a step forward. On the offensive side of the ball, I think Spencer Brown. He's 2 years removed from back surgery. I know he had some kind of shoulder surgery, I think it was, but I know he had kind of, you could call it like a mini breakout season last year. That guy has all of the physical tools. He's a physical specimen. If he can stay healthy and now has 2 years of full health, I think we're really going to have those bookend tackles, and they're going to make the Bills have to make he's going to make the Bills have to make a big decision of, do we pay this guy or not? So I want Spencer Brown to take a big step forward, and be the guy that he showed flashes of last year.
Yeah, I'm going to go defensively. I'm actually going to go a little bit of a different route because I had a couple players in mind. I was between about two players, but I'm going to go non-player. I'm going to go Bobby Babich. I think he shows out this year as a defensive. I think he ends up by the end of the year being the defensive play caller. I think he ends up showing the NFL, hey, I'm here to stay. I'm here to be the guy that's going to be a household name. I'm going to end up getting a head coaching job somewhere down the line, whether it's after this year or 2 years from now, 3 years from now. I think he's going to end up taking the play calling over, and I think he's really going to show that he's already shown it that he knows the game, and two, that he can coach a defense very well. So I'm going to go a little bit of a different route. I was between two guys. I'll say it, I guess, afterwards who those two guys were, but I'm going to go Bobby Babich. On the offensive side, this one's a little bit tougher for me because, you have James Cook, who you could say broke out already last year. Obviously, Josh Allen is not going to. I mean, if he breaks out any more than he already did, then we're talking history. And then, really, who else really is there besides, the receivers that we were talking about? I would say maybe Kincaid might be the easy answer to say, but I really do think that he will have a huge season this year. I think he'll eclipse 1,000 yards. I think he'll be that 80, 90 catch, maybe even 100 catch guy that is going to be Josh's go-to. So I'm going to go with the easy one on offense there in Kincaid. Defensively, I'm going to go a little bit of a different route and go with Bobby Babich to be the breakout defensive mind in the NFL.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback on what I said earlier about Khalil Shakir getting the most targets out of any wide receiver and say that he's going to be the offensive guy that breaks out. And he had a hell of a year last year anyway, caught nearly everything that was thrown to him. He wasn't necessarily a volume guy. And I think this year you saw more and more volume towards the end of the year and more production. I think he has a breakout year on offense, and Khalil Shakir. I think they're going to let him kind of go as far as he can go. And if he's producing, they're going to keep riding it. And I think that could lead, like I said, to a breakout year. On defense, I really like AJ Epinesa. I know he showed some flashes last year and whatnot, and then got hurt. So AJ Epinesa for me, I think a big signing. I think this offseason to get him back, and I think he, without knowing if Von Miller really can be a guy to play opposite of Greg Rousseau with any regularity, I think we're going to see AJ Epinesa on the field quite a bit. And I think if he turns into a bit of a game wrecker, he had that tip interception last year, things like that. I just think that he could really step up and be more of the double-digit sack guy versus Rousseau. I would love to see Rousseau get those double-digit sacks by all means, but I think that if AJ Epinesa could be that guy also, with Ed Oliver hopefully continuing to do that in the interior. So if you have Ed Oliver and AJ Epinesa in double digits, then Rousseau hopefully in the 8 to 10 range or more. I mean, the more the better. We'll take it, but we'll see what some of these other guys can do behind him, and maybe one of those guys isn't even on the roster yet. So yeah, good talk. I think we're gonna, just in the interest of time here, switch up a little bit. Scott, if you want to roll with your segment, and then we'll get right into the running back room and things like that.
Works for me. Yeah, so this week for my 1 minute segment, going to talk a little bit about Damar Hamlin. I've heard that he's been showing some flashes at OTAs, making some big plays. So I want to hear what you all think. Do we think Damar Hamlin makes the team this year? I personally don't. We drafted a safety in Cole Bishop. We brought Taylor Rapp back. We signed Mike Edwards. I don't really know if there's a place for Damar Hamlin on this team. And as sad as it may be to say that, given everything that he's been through and how much we've all rallied around him as a fan base, I just don't think that his performance on the field last year necessarily warranted bringing him back, given the other options that we have. And who knows? Maybe he'll go ball out in training camp and prove me wrong, and I hope that he does. But what do you all think? Do we think Damar Hamlin makes the team this year? Sound off in the comments, or feel free to drop me a message.
would help if I wasn't an amateur and actually unmuted myself. It's a great question. It's a popular question, I think, that people are asking, and I agree that I don't know that he can get a roster spot this year without making an impact on one side of the ball or another, or one phase of the game. There's obviously special teams there too, and so he's going to have the ability to make an impact somewhere. And I'm not sure if the new kickoff rules, if they stick, if he can be a player that is good uh, in that role. But I'm not sure that that really gets you a spot on this roster. There's just so much talent here. They, bringing in Delaney, I think, as well. And even, I talked about the potential that we could go after like a Simmons or another safety as well in free agency with some of the extra money, even if it is another role player type guy, a rotational type guy. But I think you have that probably in D Delaney, so maybe you don't need another one. But yeah, I think it's like one of those things you're gonna root for him because it pulls on the heartstrings, but otherwise, just looking from a pure football perspective and what's best for the team, um, this is going to be the year to say, okay, you kind of got that red shirt year where you're allowed to come along for the ride and not be asked to do a ton necessarily, but what can you do moving forward, and where can you really take your career from here?
Yeah, I think we talked about it a little bit last week of, how before the injury he was starting to kind of come along as a safety there for the Bills. He was starting to play a little bit better and kind of get a really a feel in the NFL. And obviously the injury can change a lot, and it was a huge factor in where he is now. And who knows where he would be if it obviously the injury doesn't happen, but it did happen, and now he had to fight through it and he had to battle back. And it's just looking at the team now, and especially the safeties, I think they just like you look at it, and I just think they're going to like guys better at that spot. Even Cam Lewis as a guy over him, maybe. It's just it's going to be he's outside looking in right now. You got 4 already there. You could even add another one, as we talked about earlier. It's going to be tough for him to really make it. I'm rooting for him, kind of like you said, Lance. We're rooting for him, and if he shows out, awesome, that would be great. But it's just, unless he really shows out, I just don't see a path for him on this 53. Now, maybe he is a guy that they keep on the practice squad. Who knows? He might be one of the few that they do keep on the practice squad to say, hey, depth. If somebody goes down, we're calling you right up. You know the system, you know the team. Obviously the fan base loves him, and he could be a guy that they keep around there just in case. And maybe he does start showing out in practice as a practice squad guy, and they say nope, we're going to call you up anyways. So he's a guy that I just right now I don't necessarily see it happening, but I'm rooting for him, and I hope that he can show out and really, really, make his mark on the team this training camp.
Yeah, I agree. I think everyone kind of it's a touchy thing. Like you don't want to go out and just say like, the dude stinks and we need to cut him, because that's not necessarily what I'm thinking. It's just a matter of like, okay, well now, like this team is on the precipice of competing and trying to win a championship here, and what 53 guys can help them achieve that, plus the 16 or so they throw on the practice squad. I think it's a fair question, for sure. Like I said, I think it's been a popular thing throughout the fan base this off season, and kind of a difficult thing to answer, because you kind of are fighting you're fighting emotion with logic at the same time, and I think our logic is pretty much winning out here. So let's take a shift now to something that we can be passionate about, but not so much emotional, maybe. Running back room, thoughts or predictions. So how will the room look this year? We've got, was it five running backs right now? James Cook, Ty Johnson, Ray Davis, Frank Gore Jr., and Darrington Evans. Am I missing one? Is there another? No, that's 5. So
think so.
Those guys, probably out of those, you're going to have 3 on the roster with 1 or both on the practice squad if they don't get signed away, and then room for elevations if or whatnot if there's injury. So give us your thoughts. What do you think about this running back room? Do you like um, the depth as it is? Do you think there's any need for a physical veteran to come in that's more of a downhill type guy, or do you think Gore Jr. and Ray Davis are able to fit in that role well enough to keep it as is?
Yeah, I think, I mean, first I'll answer the first question. I absolutely love this running back room right now. I'm a huge fan of it. I love Ray Davis. Ty Johnson, I think last year showed great signs of being a very good depth running back. Also a guy that's had experience in the NFL. He's had a couple of years in the year. When it comes to Frank Gore Jr., he's a tough one. It's going to be between, I think, him and Darrington Evans of can either of them squeak their way onto this roster. Obviously, Darrington Evans last year was a Bills legend last year before he got cut and then went elsewhere and now he's back here and everybody loved him. So maybe if he gets cut again, who knows what will happen? Maybe we'll hear another uproar there. But no, I mean he's another solid guy that can also kind of give you some good downs, right? He's a guy that has shown it in the NFL and different teams, and he's not going to be that number one running back by any means, but he can be good depth. So I do think one of these guys ends up on the practice squad. I think that the top 3 are set. I think Cook, Davis, and Johnson. I think that's pretty much set unless all of a sudden Ty Johnson comes in and just doesn't look the same as last year. But I mean, I think that's 3 right now. Do they keep a 4th? I don't think they keep a 4th. I think they end up pushing a guy to the practice squad. It'd be a little tough looking at the roster to say, yeah, we're going to keep 4 running backs. So I think right now it's going to be between Darrington Evans and Frank Gore Jr. on who can get that practice squad spot. Again, like Scott, like you said, Lance, both of them might even get scooped up if either of them get cut or go to the practice squad. So, but I think that top 3 are set: James Cook, Ray Davis, Ty Johnson. I think Ray Davis could end up really making a big mark, at least as that number 2, that kind of change of pace back. I know that they're not the craziest difference in running backs, but James Cook, I think, will be another 1,000-yard rusher. I think he'll be a guy that can be that focal point of this offense that can turn into a potential superstar. And then you have Ray Davis and Ty Johnson come in when he needs breaks and really just give you quality downs as the back in the backfield. So I really love this top 3. I don't really have too much even to say about them because, like I said, I'm a huge fan of this running back room right now.
Yeah, I am too. Obviously, we know James Cook going to be the number 1, hoping he can take that next step forward going into next season. Big fan of Ray Davis. He was the running back I wanted out of the draft. Big physical runner, plays faster than you think. Kind of that change of pace back, like you just said, and a similar role to guys we've had in the past. We brought in vets to try to fill that role, but this time we brought in a rookie to be the kind of hammer back, and I'm excited to see how that goes. Ty Johnson really came on the second half last year. I hope that continues. And yeah, Evans and Gore, I think they're both battling for a practice squad position. I'd be very surprised if we keep 2 running backs on the practice squad. Just there's a lot more valuable positions out there. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. I think we're going to go into the season with maybe the best 3 running backs we've had in recent memories. And then, yeah, Evans and Gore Jr. fighting for that practice squad spot, and maybe they're to fill in if someone gets banged up. But yeah, to echo what you said, very excited about the running backs this year. And I think they're going to be a big focal point of the offense, more so than in years past.
Yeah, one of the things that I took away from when you talk about James Cook having a step forward is his touchdown numbers, 2 rushing touchdowns last year. And obviously we know how Josh Allen can get into the end zone with his legs. So, does Josh Allen remain that goal line running back, or is a guy like Ray Davis or kind of Frank Gore Jr. take over that role? I don't see Cook necessarily playing that role, but at least someone other than having Josh Allen running the ball. I think that there's only, as his career progresses and Allen still has plenty of life left in his career, they are going to probably have him run less and less. And so at some point in those goal line situations, they may choose to hand off a little bit more frequently than they do currently. But Josh Allen is the most effective player that they have at the goal line at this time. So I don't see them changing that right away when you just obviously need to score points in this league. You're not going to, you know, give yourself a disadvantage just because you want to save your quarterback. At some point, you have to let him go and score those touchdowns as well. So maybe the one area I think Cook definitely can step forward and is maybe scoring some more touchdowns on the ground. And he obviously has that ability to score from anywhere on the field if he can get the ball. And I think this offensive line is going to be physical and athletic. So I think they're going to get him in more space and be able to allow him to have the ability to break more runs in the open field. And let's hope that some of those turn into more touchdowns than they did last year. Um, I think you guys both said it. You guys basically are putting Ray Davis at RB2 at this point, and I tend to agree with that. I think Ty Johnson isn't slept on. I just think he's best suited for that RB3 role and can kind of do a little bit of everything when one of the top two need a break. And he can come in and there's not a ton of drop off. I've said this a million times now. I think that Ty Johnson falls forward all the time. I really love how he just seems to carry his momentum forward and always get that extra couple of inches and things like that. And it's going to be important. I think they're going to use some new technology this year, so they're going to be needing to get those extra couple of inches there and be at a benefit for this offense. Um, as far as Reggie Gilliam's role goes, I think that we kind of talked when we were discussing the offense earlier that that he's a little bit in flux because Dawson Knox may be able to do a lot of what they're asking him to do. Now, he made a huge play on special teams last year, forcing a fumble and things like that, maybe even twice. But I think that he's a guy that's really looked at as a leader and a solid utility player. Certainly a fan favorite too. So that's going to be a tough competition and tough. I think that numbers game, like you mentioned earlier, is going to be um, either you will see if it can be in or not of Reggie Gilliam's favor. What do you think on Reggie Gilliam and any of the other? If you want to look through the outline and pick something there, but I think we kind of went over most of the topics there and just are at Reggie Gilliam now. Let me know what you think on Gilliam's role and does he ultimately make the 53?
I think that he does. I really like Reggie Gilliam, and for one of those reasons is just how like many different roles that he can play. He came in as a tight end. We moved him to fullback. He can still line up at tight end. He plays special teams, and we love our guys who play special teams. He's a Mac guy. Maction went to Toledo. That makes him extra fun. So I think that he does make the team just because we don't really have anybody with his skill set quite as versatile as Reggie's. Like Dawson Knox, yeah, he can block, but not as well. And we need Dawson Knox to go catch passes. Reggie Gilliam, like you said, he's great on special teams. I think he makes the team. Bring fullbacks back. Make fullbacks cool again. So I think he runs it back for one more year, at least.
And Brady talked about 22 personnel, so I do think that I have to agree with that and think that he's planning to use a fullback. But let's get Ben's thoughts as well.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was talking about it a little bit earlier, right, with Dawson Knox. I think it's a tough one because we don't. It's a tough year to even talk about like those types of players, right? Because we don't know what this offense is going to look like. Are they going to play more spread out, more get faster guys out there, get more receivers out there, running backs, or are they going to use a lot more of the tight ends, fullbacks, and really become a maybe ground and pound team and then air it out after you beat the defense down there a little bit? So it's going to be a big question to see how they attack it. I would probably say they keep him right now. If I had to, again, put money on it, I would probably say that. We've even seen him be able to make plays in the passing game on some screens, right? We saw him take a screen to the house, break a tackle, and take it in. So he can do a little bit of everything. I love him. I mean, if they did cut him, it would be sad, but I would kind of get why they do. So I guess right now I'd probably say I'd put my money on him being on the team. But not to get I mean, to get off a little bit off of Reggie Gilliam, I did want to bring up, you talked about Ty Johnson being that number 3. I do think by the end of the year he's number 3, but I think it starts off Ray Davis. I think they're going to slow him into it, like they kind of have with some rookies in the past. I know that's kind of changed over the past year or two, where they've kind of put rookies in more, but I do think it will be a little bit early with Ty Johnson being that number 2 in the first 2, 3, 4 weeks, and then kind of ease Davis in and not have it be a huge discrepancy early on, but have Ty Johnson be that go-to guy as the number 2. So I just wanted to kind of say that because I know you mentioned that as well when we were talking about Ty Johnson and Ray Davis being penciled in as that number 2. By mid-season, I think Ray Davis is that number 2, solid number 2. But I do think Ty Johnson will ease into it. But when it comes to Reggie, I do think I do think he could do a little bit of everything. I think he'll end up being on that 53-man roster.
Yeah, for sure. A-Rich coming in. Appreciate you tuning in, A-Rich. Reggie versatility and special teams prowess is the reason he makes the team. He's our better version of Patrick DeMarco. Completely agree. I mean, they talked about having smart, intelligent, high IQ football players on this team and getting as many of those football players as you can get. Gilliam fits that mold to a T. Obviously, just a really solid, really good football player overall. So there's not much that they ask him to do that he can't handle. And in his role, there's obviously many reasons to keep him. I don't think he's necessarily even on the bubble. I just think it's a matter of, like we talked about, numbers game. We don't know exactly what they're going to want to do with this offense, if they're going to change it enough to diminish that role and want more 4 wide receiver sets types of thing, then maybe you see him inactive a game or 2 this year, if that's the case, I guess, so they can maybe activate.
Can we throw Reggie Gilliam a 50-yard go route in a playoff game?
Anything's possible.
Did we already do that?
To Pat DeMarco.
No, I thought we already threw it deep to Reggie too. Maybe not playoffs, but in a regular season game, I remember them going deep to Reggie.
All I remember is I was in Houston in the stadium, and we're down by 3 points. It's fourth quarter, and Josh Allen cocks back. Let's go 50 yards down the field, and I'm like, "Ooh, who's this to?" And I see Pat DeMarco in double coverage. I'm just like, "Oh my god!"
Hey, if he would have made the play, it would have gone down as one of the greatest plays in not just Bills history, but NFL history.
I probably would have taken my shirt and run on the field from the upper.
I would have bought his jersey.
Nice. All right, so yeah, I guess the predictions part of it. I think like I mentioned, my prediction is to have it be Cook, Ray Davis as RB2, and then Ty Johnson as RB3 with Frank Gore Jr. on the practice squad. I think they maybe try to get Evans on the practice squad, but I think he maybe just gets signed away. So that would be my 4 guys that are going to be on the team, but 3 on the 53 and then the other on the practice squad, with Gilliam also making the roster here.
Yeah, I'm going with the James Cook start the season. I think it's going to be Ty Johnson and then Ray Davis. But by the end of the year, I think it's going to be what Lance said, where Ray Davis is 2 and Ty Johnson 3. And then, I do think that the practice squad spot goes to Frank Gore, because I think even if they're saying, hey, they look at both of them, they're like, hey, we're going to keep one of you. We would like to keep both of you on the practice squad. I think Darrington Evans would even say, hey, if I'm going to practice squad, I'd rather go somewhere else practice squad, because you guys do have your set running backs for not just this year, but even years to come. So, yeah.
Yeah, I look at it maybe not quite like a 2-3, but like a 2A, 2B, just because Ty Johnson and Ray Davis do so many things differently well. That just kind of depending on down and distance to vary when we see Davis versus Johnson. And then, I agree with you. If they keep Gore over Evans, if all things are equal, we know what we're getting from Darrington Evans. Frank Gore Jr., I haven't seen him for a full year yet. Maybe just keep him because maybe a little. We don't necessarily know what he has just yet. So agree with that. But excited about the running back room more so than years past.
Maybe we'll be a ground and pound. Rex Ryan. No,
it's gonna be more balanced. We're gonna have to rely on some more running back productivity and I think that's going to maybe surprise some people. Like I said at the beginning here, how often or how much more often they might rely on a handoff to a running back versus putting the ball in Allen's hands. I just think there's going to be a little bit more of that uh, balance desired because the offense has to be less predictable than it was last year. There were times when they lined up and I just like, are they really just going to run the ball into this wall right now? And sure enough, they did. And then, like, when they got cute and they tried swing passes, they just kind of didn't work. And, now they have more of the Curtis Samuel type of guy where they can do maybe more swing pass and things like that and line him up in the backfield like they were trying to do with Diggs. But I think that just didn't work out necessarily with Diggs. So, if you
Yeah.
haven't already and you're watching, please like, share, and head on over to YouTube, subscribe, follow the Built in Buffalo um, social media pages, if you will. I see 12 watching on Facebook and 10 likes. So if you're on Facebook, hit the like button, hit the share button. If you're on X, repost and like, and then come on over to YouTube if you're on X so you can subscribe to that Built in Buffalo YouTube channel and give us a like there. Help us with the algorithm through the YouTube channel. Greatly appreciate it as we try to keep growing and bringing you guys all this great Bills content. So now I think we're going to get into a segment from Ben, right? So Shoop will set you up here.
Yep. And before I get into my 1 minute segment, I'm going to add on to Scott or Lance's little like, subscribe. If you didn't know, if you subscribe, there's like a little bell. If you hit that bell, you'll get notified every time Built in Buffalo goes live, posts a video, posts a short, anything like that from YouTube. So if you do that and you want to be one of the first ones every time to see the Built in Buffalo content, whether it's a live show, whether it's whatever it is, hit that little bell there and it will give you a notification on your phone, laptop, whatever it is, whenever on your YouTube account, anytime Built in Buffalo does in fact put out some content there. So make sure to do that if you're interested. But my 1 minute segment last week, I know a lot of people didn't love mine last week. That was made very apparent early, and I kind of knew it beforehand. I told Lance beforehand. I said, hey, my 1 minute segment this week might ruffle some feathers. It was about Josh Allen. If he went injured, would you be confident in Mitch Trubisky? This week, I'm going to go a little bit off. I'm going to go a little bit more fun to think about. So Josh Allen, I mean, I think a lot of us too, I've been seeing it's kind of blowing up as a sport in general. A lot of people have been golfing a lot. I've been golfing a lot. I know Scott and Lance, we've talked about, they golfed a lot too and getting into that and everything. It's been a sport a lot. It's been growing fast. And a lot of people, especially younger people, are getting into it. But Josh Allen this past week played a lot of golf. Played 117 holes in one day. Now we still aren't 100% sure on if he played all 117 in one day, but either way, 117 holes in a day, that's a lot of holes to play. And a lot of it was due to having to help raise money for the Patricia Allen Fund and just kind of help out there with raising money for a good cause. So my question to you is, do you think if you play Josh Allen one-on-one in a round of 18 of golf, around 18 holes, do you think you could beat him? Personally, I'm not good, so I'm going to say absolutely not for me. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm going to go put this up right now on Twitter as well, right after the show, right after we're done here. So be sure to let us know there. So a little bit more of a fun question from me this week. Do you think you could beat Josh Allen in 18 holes of golf? Yes or no? That's going to be my one of the week this week.
All right, good stuff. I definitely cannot. I am a mathlete, not an athlete, so I will stay on this computer rather than try to get on a golf course. I would love to play around with him, but I would be severely embarrassed.
I've watched quite a few golf videos of Josh. It all depends on how many mulligans I get. And if I don't drink and he does, maybe I can get him on the back nine.
That I didn't think about that. That might play a factor. Yeah, no, I'm a baseball player. I'm still trying to get that baseball swing out of me. And slice it right every time. If you have, let's just say, if the first hole or one of the holes is right next to a parking lot, and you see me playing, and it's to the right of the parking lot, don't park there. Just park somewhere else because I'm gonna hit your car. It's gonna go off and go into the parking lot because I slice right every time.
And then every time I aim left, so correct, that's when it goes straight.
Yep. Right.
Never
Exactly.
fails. Yep. Good time. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate that. Let us know what your thoughts are, obviously, in the comments and on Ben's post on social media. We've been going for almost an hour and a half now. I think we're going to save the rest of the content we had on tap for another show and just say good night here. So with that, final thoughts here on the show and on what we've been talking about. Anything from either of you guys? Let me know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another good show. Awesome to have all three of us back. I know it's a little bit weird when we go from two to three to two to three, whatever. But it's fun to have all three of us on here, and it's a good one. And let me know again as well. DM me, whatever. Let me know if you guys like this angle, if you switched up. But yeah, it's another great show.
You look good from all angles, Ben.
There you go.
Ooh.
Appreciate everybody tuning in. Kind of a slow sports weekend outside of the NHL playoffs, NBA finals. Scott Foster couldn't do enough to rig it to get those series further along. So something to tune into, College World Series, first weekend of the regionals. Always really exciting. Not sure if anybody else is here as a college baseball fan, but this first weekend of college baseball is a ton of fun. So if you're looking for something to watch, drink a beer and watch some sports, College World Series regionals this weekend, check them out.
Love to have that on in the background, and then you can always hear that ping off the bat with
Oh,
the metal
yeah.
bats they use, and right away what's going on. So people smashing dingers out there. I like to, a good show. Obviously, I have a lot of fun every time we're on talking Bills. Good time. So with that, just have a safe weekend, everyone, and hope to see you guys right back here next Friday as we keep rolling on with triple coverage. Now in week 5 here, I think so, or week 4 maybe. I'm not sure, but anyways, always a good time, and go Bills, and hope everyone enjoys the weekend.
Go Bills.
Peace.